Thank you very much for coming along. I know you're all busy, and I'm really, really pleased. In fact, we had so many people sign up for this session that we had to move from the exam room. So that's fantastic. But this is a very, very important area about keeping your children safe. I've already been around to a couple of groups who've got younger children to say that this might be quite graphic in some respects, in terms of language, cultural language that we're going to be using, adult language we're going to be using, but that's the only way we can get this message through. We've just had a year 10 to 13 session for the students that was, I thought, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. It really hit the nail on the head, and I think they've gone away really thinking about various things. In fact, I asked them and they were all absolutely memorised by what they heard. Robin Watts, I've known for many, many years. He came out to Prague when I was over head teacher there, a number of times doing training for staff and running workshops for parents there. I'm really pleased that he's been able to take time out of his busy schedule, because in fact he should have been starting work tomorrow, training our staff on safer recruitment, and then over the weekend he's doing some work on child protection, advanced child protection. But because we've had a few issues, I think in terms of sending out inappropriate images and things, I thought what better person to talk to you than Robin. So I'm going to hand straight over to him. If I could ask you, if you've got a mobile phone, just to put it on vibrate, that would be really helpful. And it's over to Robin. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Yes, good afternoon everyone. So I'll give myself a quick introduction to you and tell you who I am and my background and things like that. I really welcome interruptions, etc. So if you want to interrupt me and ask me a question, please do not hesitate to do that. I've been married for a long time, so I'm used to it. Don't worry about all that. This session is for you, it's not for me. So, and I don't tell you that I know everything as well. Some people introduce me as an expert. What's the definition of an expert? They're ex and they spurt off a lot. That's the only definition of an expert. So what will happen is that if I can't answer a question, I will always find it out for you, because it's good for my learning, and then I'll send it to Mr. Bagos and he'll send it to you, kind of thing. So, but I will try and answer your questions if I can. So say with some of the kids here, some of the things I'm going to say, you may feel a bit, but it's your responsibility really if your kids are here or not. I'm not going to swear or curse or do anything like that, but I'm going to tell you about my life. You can probably imagine what I've seen and had to deal with. So my life back is I joined the police in the UK in 1976. I was a career detective. I worked nearly all my career in South London. 16 years of my career I was a murder squad officer. I did 2 years as an anti-terrorist officer. I did 2 years on drugs. That didn't come out right, did it? I wasn't on drugs, people, honestly. I was on the drug squad. And then my last 10 years of my policing was in the child abuse investigation of women. So my job was to investigate serious crimes committed against children, where somebody who knew the child and had a degree of care control and committed that crime. I would not deal with stranger attacks of children, they go to other officers. Anybody here want to hazard a guess around about that of all attacks on children, what percentage are committed on them by a stranger? Give me a number, somebody, what you think would be about that. Sorry? 10%? So quite 90% no, these days. It's quite high, isn't it? Yeah, do you all agree with that, or do you think it should be less than that, more than that? Let's stop teasing you. Yeah, close. It's 3%. 3%. All attacks of children, 97% is people who know them and should have a degree of care control. What do you teach your children, people? Stranger danger, don't you? Be comfortable with that, don't you? Tell them about strangers that attack. That amounts to 3%. How many of you tell them about known family attacks? Interesting as well, isn't it, that we don't do that? How many of your kids know a trusted adult they can speak to if they have problems and things like that about another adult, etc. So, doing a little bit more, I may tell you some strategies that I've used with my kids and how I try to protect them. So I investigated child abuse for 10 years as a police officer, so that would be the rape, the murder of children, things like that kind of thing. Physical assault, sexual abuse, severe neglect, criminal neglect, that kind of thing. So I then resigned from the police. I did not resign. I retired from the police around about 11 years ago, 2008. and became a pensioner. And I thought I would go home and hang my spurs up and put my feet up, get my pension and relax. And I got remarried. She wouldn't allow that to happen. So I had to get out and work. I married my boss from the last 5 years of the police. She was my line manager. My dad always used to tell me that you keep your friends close and your enemies closer, so I married her. My signature, which John will verify, because I worked so much abroad, is a good husband. It's a Japanese proverb, by the way, I didn't make it up. A good husband is both healthy and absent. She put that on as my signature. Tell where she wants me, don't you? Yeah. Anyway, she, senior police officer, is now a primary school teacher. In fact, assistant head in the school in South England, just north of Brighton. So that's, I think, pretty much me. I've got 5 children. I've got 3 little baby boys who are 37, 35, and 33. And I've got 2 children from my second marriage. They're not my biological children, but they are my children. I adopted them. They're my wife's biological children, who are age 15 is my son, and 13 is my daughter. She was 13 last month, and I said, how old are you on your birthday? She said, 30. I said, no, you're 13. She said, no, Daddy, 30. And I believe that, the way she treats me. Girls, you're not easy to bring up. You really are. So, I'm going to sort of go through what we do and what I sort of tell schools and things like that, and why it's so important for schools. Now, schools are a line of defence for every one of your children, aren't they? But where's their first line of defence? Parents. Aren't we the first line of defence? So why are we so poor at it? Do you agree you're poor at it? Oh, yeah, let's have a look. We'll ask you some questions about it. You can judge that yourself, I suppose. The world is a dangerous place to live. Not because the people are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. So when we don't protect our children get harmed. Whose fault is it? It's ours as parents, isn't it? So can you imagine my daughter, my son, my 15-year-old and 13-year-old, what we've told them, what we've done with them? I'm not advocating this, by the way, and I know that some cultures don't like this, some religions don't like what I'm going to tell you, but this is what we've done, so no, okay? Whatever you feel about me. So when my daughter was 3, nearly 4, it was in August, and she was 4 in September, she asked that faithful question in the car, where did I come from? I, of course, was very concentrating on driving, so wouldn't be able to answer her, could I? So it has to be her mum. Because I was driving, I don't want to lose concentration. Yeah, I bowled it. Yeah, okay, I bowled it. But then my wife went on and told her, my son, who was 5, how they were created in this vagina, not just for weeing through, they've got other functions, etc., that kind of thing. Where she came from, it wasn't out of the tummy, that kind of thing, you know, they're full reason, but very child-friendly, but told them exactly how they were created. I then went on to talk to them about keeping themselves safe. So she had done that part, and I thought I'd have the easier part. So I talked to my daughter and son about, first thing, about the swimming costume ball. I don't know how many of you have done that with your kids. So about where you wear your swimming costume is your own private area, and nobody can touch it, see it, want to see it, remark about it, talk about it, anything like that, without you telling a trusted adult. Oh, by the way, kids, name me at least 5 trusted adults in your life. 5 people that you could go to and you trust will help you. So, of course, mummy, daddy, of course, grandma, granddad. My daughter said teacher, that she really trusted her teacher, etc. My son spoke about somebody that he, in school as well, a teacher, or non-teaching member staff, to be honest, in school that he would trust, he liked, that he would go and see, etc. So they did all that. And then my daughter came out with, I thought for a 3-year-old, a very intelligent question. She said, but Daddy, a doctor can touch me there. So I said, no, sweetheart. Not even a doctor can touch you there, unless Mummy or Daddy or trusted adult know about that, etc. Yeah? So I said, if Daddy ever touches you there, you must tell Mummy. Mummy ever touches you there, you must tell Daddy. If one of your older brothers, who they love and adore, my sons from my first marriage are their big brothers that protect them, you know. And they said, if they do it, you've got to tell Mummy or Daddy, that kind of thing. So everyone, even your trusted adults, if they do something wrong, you've got to tell that kind of thing. And the way I see it is that I'm trying to put my children in a protective bubble. They are there in the middle of a bubble. So imagine now, my daughter is walking around and there's this big soap bubble kind of thing effect around her. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep that bubble out tight. So when the bad people in the world try to probe her, to get into her, to hide her vulnerabilities, they can't, because I've kept that bubble out tight, really out tight. They can't probe that bubble, it's really tight. But if I haven't told her about keeping herself safe, things like that, that's where abusers manipulate. They take the innocence of the child, the naivety of the child, to gain access. Some people will say to me that telling my daughter at the age of 4, nearly 3, 4, about sex at that early age is taking her innocence away. Well, you may say that, but I'm not going to agree with you, because I would say, what would take her innocence away more? Telling her about a natural loving act and when she should be doing it, when she shouldn't, etc., or her being abused. What should take her innocence away more? And don't forget, predators rely on the innocence and the vulnerability of children to gain access. They probe that bubble all the time. I could actually show you, I may do, if I have time, show you a known paedophile being interviewed about how he accesses children. It'd be very interesting to know that. So, thinking about this, let's talk about you lot now. So how many of you, you're in the shower, the doorbell goes, and you say to your little kid downstairs, can you deal with whoever's at the door there? Can you just deal with that? Would any of you do that? No, you wouldn't do that. How many of you, your kid comes up to you, says, Mum, Dad, I've got a bit of a problem, I'd love to talk to you about it. How many of you would say that, you know, I'm really busy, I'm a bit stressed at the moment, just pop out in the streets and speak to a stranger about your problem? You're not going to do that, you're not going to do that, no? Okay. How many of you leave your pornography on the coffee table for kids to have a look at? Any of you do that here? Because you wouldn't even have pornography, would you? How many of you would get a pornographic movie and leave it on the telly running so the kids can walk past the telly and see that pornographic movie running on the telly? How many of you would do that? Am I saying that none of you would do that? Is that right? How many of you leave your children alone on the internet? Do I make the point? Most of you leave your children alone on the internet. You allow them to access a stranger that will try and sell them Viagra or double glazing or heating and things like that. The door salesman, you're leaving them alone to do that, aren't you? They're getting those emails responding, etc. to that kind of thing. You're allowing your children to talk about all their problems to a stranger on the internet, aren't you? Because you don't know what they're doing in their bedroom, do you? You're allowing them to access pornography. You're doing that, but you wouldn't do it if it was really there in front of you, but you're damn well doing it now anyway. How many of you know what your kids are doing on the internet? How many of you sit next to them and play the games like Fortnite, Minecraft and all that with them? How many of you lock your children down so they can't do this, can't do that? How many of you have given your children a device like an iPhone, an Android phone, and then you've gone into the settings, which you can do in every single phone you can buy, and passworded it? So if they put porn.com in the search engine, it'll block it. How many of you have done that? Making sure that you're keeping it safe. This first line of defence is down to you. Unfortunately, what I find is a lot of you, bless you, and I'm one of you, don't forget, a parent of children, the first people you blame is the school. You say, well, the school didn't teach us. The school didn't tell us. The school didn't tell our kids how to keep safe. I'm sorry, it's your responsibility, not the schools. The schools do have a responsibility of keeping the children safe, but the first line of defence is you and your family and the trusted adult. So please don't blame others for your failings, kind of thing. Stick that it's your fault and deal with it, kind of thing. And take that and keep that protective bubble out tight for all the children that you have. So making sure that nobody can probe that bubble. I was talking to all those kids, and they were wonderful, by the way, the ones that I've just spoken to before you. I know they're maybe not all your kids, but from year 10 upwards, I think. Yeah. And actually wonderful. And they were quite honest, and I was quite shocked. And I think you'd agree with me, you were quite shocked with some of the answers when I said, you know, how many are allowed to be left alone on the internet? Maybe all of them. There's a few that weren't. There were 2 children that don't have a device in the whole of the room. And poor kids, they felt a bit, ooh, they're different. But I think that's fine. They shouldn't be treated as different for that kind of thing. But it was amazing when I got how cruel I am. A lot of kids thought I was cruel. Do you know why? Because I have a system on my broadband that locks my kids off at 9 p.m. So they always trudge down. They have to spend their last hour cuddled up with us watching something quite easy and just talk to us for the last hour. And some of the kids in here thought I was evil, a real evil father. They did, for doing that kind of thing. And I showed them a device on my phone. One thing, Face ID. Did you see that? I didn't touch anything, just Face ID. Dangerous. Thumbprint, do you have thumbprints on yours as well? Dangerous. The best thing is a 6-digit number, people. I showed them a video I can't show you because we've got people in here that are too young. But if I would really implore you, when you go home, go on YouTube and type in Kaylee's story. Make sure your little kids aren't there. And watch Kaylee's story, people. This is about a girl who took 15 days to be groomed, raped and murdered online. From a person she met online. And it's a reenactment of her last 15 days on this earth. And it is harrowing. But it'll often make you think about how you treat your kids online. So what I showed them was this thing. It's called Tether. It's on my phone at the moment. You see it working? Does anybody know what that's doing? That is accessing my Wi-Fi box at home. Yeah? So it will do eventually. It's a bit slow. The Wi-Fi in Egypt's not that good, is it? Anyway, that will do that by next week. So if you come back next week, I'll show you how that works anyway. I'll leave it running to see what happens to that. But basically, I'll tell you what that's doing. That is accessing my box at home. I can see who's on. It worked very well with the children, and that's why they went, you're grim as a father. They didn't like me at all. Because I now, if my daughter or son are on fire, I can see what they're doing, just turn them off, just block them. From here, from Egypt, from anywhere. I travel the world, I can block them anywhere in the world on that kind of thing. But it comes with you, or you have to find out your Wi-Fi box's capabilities to have that software first. So you go to the manufacturer and they'll find it on the website and they'll find out whether you can do this. So put accessing your Wi-Fi router from...
Sorry, Apple phones can actually do that through the Apple phone. You don't have to have the Apple.
You don't have to do it, so you can do it that day. Okay. So one thing would be nice, do you have like a parents forum? People can... Your parents can go on your website and see things that you want them to see? It's just that when the lady over there, I think that would be wonderful to get her knowledge, put it on, so all the rest of you know how to do it. And what I'm saying, to say something like that kind of thing, whether we send you that'll do. Something like that, WhatsApp. And Facebook, yeah, so we could even get strangers coming on with us as well. No. You knew that was coming, didn't you? You just looked at me, you just said, I know, Robin, I know that's coming. Where was I? What are you lot doing in my front room? Oh, right, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Prevalence of child abuse as well, let's come into that. Oh, there's one other thing I want to show you. How much do you trust your kids? Eh? Bless them, they're lovely, aren't they? I've got to try and figure out how much this school owes me for my fees. So I'm going to use a calculator to do that. Calculator? Yeah? If I turn that off again, it's there. Can you see it? Bottom left there. Some of you won't have that good eyesight if you like me. That's a calculator, isn't it? Is it? Is that a calculator? So 5 times 5 equals, 25. Calculator. No, it's not. I've just put a number in there and push percentage. I can now access the dark web. I can take pictures of you and hide them. I can have sexual images of children in there. You will never find them, ever. That is a secret vault. Who told me about that? Where did I find this out? Kids. Kids told me about this. Kids have secret vaults on their phones and you don't know anything about them. One thing, if they've got this one, people, if I turn it off and turn it back on again and go back to calculator, look what happens when you turn it sideways. Nothing happens with it. What happens when you do the real one? So just tap the kid's real one and then turn it on its side and look what happens. That's a real one, that's not a vault. Yeah, so go like that. So your one's real, you haven't got a vault in there. But you need one to hide things from your husband. Yeah. see whether it acts like the real one with that. It looks like the real one, but doesn't act anything like the real one. So little things like that, sort of checking, making sure you can get in and see things, that kind of thing. One thing I was saying to your kids as well, bless them, is that they were really shocked with this, because they've all heard, I don't know if you've heard of this, of a term called child pornography. You heard that term? You heard the term sexting? Sexting. Yeah? Do you know they don't exist, don't you? You know child pornography does not exist. You know sexting does not exist. Now I am getting on my soapbox, but I've been 20 odd years in the child abuse arena, seeing bad things happen to children. So yes, I'm more than right to tell the hum when it comes to child abuse, kind of thing. Why do I say that child pornography and sexting does not exist? Because I can tell you in most countries of the world, not all by any standards, most countries in the world, pornography is legal. There is nothing wrong with any of us in this room, if we're adults, 18 plus, to have pornography. Not illegal whatsoever. The definition, it actually comes from an old Greek word to mean writing about prostitutes. They wanted to see prostitution activity, so they wrote about it. So it's seeing sexual activity of prostitutes. That's where it came from. And it's perfectly legal in most countries in the world. Is a sexual image of a child legal? So how can it be child pornography? Because that implies it's legal. And we minimise it by saying that term. We minimise the term of child pornography. So a judge can say, well, it was just child pornography when sentencing. A head teacher is saying, well, I'm not going to deal with that in my school because it's just a bit of sexting and child pornography. But could any judge or head teacher say, you're going to get a lesser sentence for having and receiving, sending, making, creating child sex abuse images? Could any head say, I'm not going to take it seriously because it's just taking, distributing, sending child sex abuse images? They can't, can they? You can't say it's just and then use that language. But you can say it's just sexting, it's just child pornography. So that's where language to me is so important. But every one of the kids in the school that has taken a picture of themselves naked, yeah, or even half naked kind of thing, that image is sexual, has taken a child sex abuse image. If they sent it, they have taken and distributed a child sex abuse image. They have committed a criminal offence, could be placed on a sex offenders register, and never work with children or vulnerable adults for the rest of their lives. They will never get a visa to America, Russia, Australia, UK, etc. You won't get a visa if you have taken and distributed a child sex abuse image, irrespective of whether it was you or not. So you can be the victim and perpetrator on this. So making sure your children know the seriousness of having a giggle and taking a picture of their either genitals or their breasts and sending them. Because this school, I promise you, will not employ them if they have come back on their record that they've been investigated for taking and distributing child sex abuse images. They can't take that risk. But they only did it as a giggle. It's so unfair. And so what I said to all the kids from year 10 upwards, and I say it to you as well, by the way, the best way of getting out of trouble, don't get into it. That's the first thing I was taught as a police officer. Best way of getting out of trouble, don't get into it. And so, but don't take that image. You know, when that kid takes the image, I talk about kids, bless them, they were young adults that were with me, and they were brilliant as well, but those young adults that were with me earlier on, you see their whole life being affected just by having a giggle. And then they send it to a boy that they fancy, or a boy sends a picture of himself to a girl they fancy today. Do they maintain that relationship for life? No, they fall out, don't they? They have right on fights and arguments. What's going to happen with that picture now? You've lost control. You've lost control. A teacher in America held up a board and said, click share if you see this. I want to see on my class how many people see this image on their next lesson. In 18 hours, how many people had seen that image? Everyone want to guess? 3.3 million people. That could be a picture of your child. So making sure that's kept safe. This here is Anne Bresco, and she says that until we accept that our children have much more of a a risk of being sexually abused, drowning in a pool, or being struck by a car, stricken with cancer, hurt by a vaccination, or diagnosed with Ebola, we contribute to a culture of panic and ignorance. In fact, a child has more chance of being sexually abused than all of those put together. But what do you worry about, people? And I'm hard jobs, crossing the road, well, especially here in Car Road, please go on. But you worry about all that, don't you? Making sure that the school keeps them safe in the swimming pool. You really worry about that, because they don't drown in the pool, all that kind of stuff. How many of you worried about them being abused? We need to change, don't we? We need to just think about that, because I can tell you from research all over the world, 85% of the girls in this school will suffer some form of sexual abuse by the time they reach the age of 18. 85% will suffer some form of sexual abuse. Most of that sexual abuse that they will suffer, they'll be able to cope with. Now, I'm not going to ask for a hands up by ladies in here, but some of you in this room, in fact a lot of you ladies in this room, would have suffered some form of sexual abuse as a child. So this would be flashed at by a dirty old man in the park kind of thing. Touched by a pupil at school who thought it was funny to grab your breast or squeeze your bum or lift your skirt or something like that. But boyfriend touching you inappropriately when you didn't like it. Being touched on a crowded underground train and things like that. Sort of agreeing with me on this? That kind of thing you can actually deal with and you can cope with, and resilience can build up on that. What we can never build resilience up on is interfamilial sexual abuse. I'm sorry, but statistically 25% of your girls in the school by the time they reach 18 will be sexually abused by a family member. That's 1 in 4. 1 in 4 of you. Do you all feel lucky that it's not going to be you? I wouldn't be thinking that. Think that it could be you, and put in measures now to stop it being you. Let's get that number down, really, if we can. Making sure that the kids got the tools, the ability, the approachability by you to come and talk to you and say, I don't like the way that this relative talks to me, behaves around me, things like that. Any of you get funny feelings with some of your people that you know around your children? Well, deal with it, people. Always, ladies in this room, your instinct is far superior to us men. Us men are good, you know, but you ladies, if you get a bad feeling, stick by it. Stick by it. It's protective. It's there purposely to protect your family. Use it. Use it strongly to protect your kids. This is important to me, isn't it, as well? So when naming trusted adults, things like that, can I tell you very quickly a very quick story about me when I was a little kid? So there I was in the south of England. Where my parents chose to live is really where you choose to go and die, you know. Unfortunately, it's a little village in the south of England where all the people have finished work, retired from life, and just want to relax by the seaside go, and that's where I was, kind of thing. Anyway, so I go to this school at the age of 5, and I remember my Year 1 form teacher's name, and that's Mrs. Christie. And my head teacher's name is Mr. Cox. Why do I know them? Well, I remember their names and no one else there, because Mrs. Christie sent me to Mr. Cox to get a cane for something I didn't do. Yeah? So I don't remember them for doing good, I remember them for doing bad. And that's where our minds work, really, isn't it? All the good people in my life that taught me so well and brought me up so well, I can't remember them. But not these two horrible people. Every lunchtime, playtime, I'd go out to the playground and be this lady, probably one of you, a parent, volunteer, and I'd run up and give her a hug. I can't remember her name. But I would talk to her about all the rubbish in my life and things like that. What I'm trying to say here is, who would I go to if I had a problem, something troubling me, worrying me, things like that? It would be that lady out in the playground. Not the two most important people, my class teacher or my head teacher, because I don't really like you, because that big misjustice. Really what I'm trying to say again is that you don't choose where your children go to, they choose. So let you know who they are in their life, you know, the trusted adults, the people. And don't be surprised if it's somebody that you wouldn't think of. My daughter, when she's 5, came home from school, she looked at me and said, "You all right, my love? How are you, my darling? You don't talk like that, we do that, dinner ladies." Now, I don't know about your dinner ladies here, but most dinner ladies across the world know more gossip, more about your kids than anyone else. Yeah, they're brilliant at gossip. So, where would my daughter probably go? Be the dinner lady. So never expect the unexpected, because she would really like that dinner lady that treats my fussy little daughter. So I make sure that here over the next couple of days, all staff read your child protection policy. Well, you should read it as well. Read the child protection policy of the school. Don't keep it a secret to yourself. Go online. It is online. Yeah. So I want to set you up to fail there. But read it. Make sure that you understand, because it's got quite a lot of useful information. That's how I'll be teaching the staff here in the other neighbouring schools that are coming over the next couple of days on how to keep it safe, how to keep children safe. So there could be some pointers in there for you as well. But also, it's quite good for you to know that when the school acts and reacts, because it's policy. It's not them doing it because they're just nasty, horrible people. It's because the policy dictates that they have to do that. The staff behaviour policy, the role of the designated lead, well, we've got one of the designated standing at the back there looking very good looking. He looks young and good looking, I hate him. But he's one of our designated in the school. He's trained to a very advanced level. He's got the most thankless job in the school, because he holds the welfare of all your children in the palm of his hand. If he makes a decision, he can harm a child. If he doesn't make a decision, he can harm a child. See what I'm saying here? And so they're all extraordinarily responsible. So if you have any worries, concerns, you seek these people out. When you say, I'm worried, I'm concerned, I'm this, that, and the other. One other thing that happens is peer-on-peer disclosure is very high. So there's a good chance that one of your children will come home worried about another child and tell you about it. Him. You've got to tell him, or Tracy Connor. You've got to come in and tell them about that disclosure, that kind of thing. And give them a sort of a virtual hug as well, because they've got the most thankless job in the school. One of the most difficult emotional jobs they have is their role in the school. So make sure you sort of help them to help children in the school as well. A lot of people say to me when I come to schools like this that wealth is a barrier. Yes, wealth is a barrier. Wealth is a big barrier to abuse. A lot of you probably are thinking that abuse is the domain of the poor, aren't you? That's where it all happens. I'll tell you that's rubbish. Your school has more abusers in it than a low-income inner-city state school. Because of all abuse of children, 33% of it occurs in low income, which means 67% occurs in middle to high income earners. Your earning bracket, isn't it? If you're a free-paying school. So some teachers have children here. So there's some with low income, but other than that, it's a bit low income. Sorry, John. I just got thinking now that my wife's a teacher, hence I'm working here. I should be putting my feet up, should be relaxing. Not supplementing her income being a teacher. No, I'm joking. Highest level of father-to-daughter sexual abuse is high income exclusively. More high income fathers sexually abuse their daughters than middle income and low income. Why is that not a surprise to me? Why does a man sexually abuse a child? Power, thank you. Who's got the most power? Low, middle, or high income. So you do have the most dangerous. You've got the 67% plus the highest level of sexual abusers. Sexual abuse in the family is 38% brothers, 23% fathers. That's 61%. Oh, sorry. Well, religion. I suppose unless you're Catholic, you're safe, aren't you? It's only the Catholics that abuse, isn't it? The Catholic priests, isn't it? Isn't that what we hear? Isn't that what we see? Is that true, though? Or is it just because of the programs or the films like Spotlight and things like that? We get that false feeling about things. But I research all faiths because I have to train them all. And is there one faith that I found that is immune from abuse? No. All of the faiths have abuses within them. Culture's interesting, though. Culture is interesting. And whether children are being abused culturally. So, I don't know if anyone can help me here. The law in Cairo on hitting children with sticks, legal or illegal? Anyone know the law on that? Sorry. With a stick? Yeah, okay. Okay. I'll find that out by tomorrow. That's part of my job. By the next day, it's part of my job to do so. But in Singapore, for instance, in Malaysia, perfectly legal and perfectly encouraged to hit children with sticks. Well, if you do that in England, you're going to get arrested, So there are some other cultural practices like FGM, West Army and things like that, cultural practices that could be culturally different. But really what we're trying to say is there is no difference between culture and abuse. And then thinking about where abuse happens, does anyone know the child abuse capital of the world? Have a guess. Which country has more child abuse reports than anywhere else in the world? I'm just going to try and show you how ignorant we are on child abuse. So shout a country out for me that you think would have high child abuse.
United States.
United States is second, it's not the top.
China.
India has no child abuse at all.
Oh,
Where else? Sorry. Thailand, no child abuse at all. Just come back from there. The stories that made Pink Cross. Yeah, I did say that, didn't I? Yeah, this is of reported child abuse. So when we come to places like China, no child abuse at all. Here, no child abuse at all. A lot of sub-Saharan African countries, no child abuse at all. They're not reported. The child abuse capital of the world is New Zealand. We've got any Kiwis amongst us? No Kiwis? No. Shame, I want to take the mickey out of them and beat them in the World Cup semi-final. There's no South Africans here, is there? Oh! Right, anyway. Yeah, so I just think where you've got humans, you've got child abuse. There's no country more bigger than the other. Remember that as well. I was saying to your kids, and I promise you, and John will back me up on this as well, that some of your kids, I don't know if they're yours in this room here, I'll feel frightened when I said this. So, any of you, now, I just feel that I would love to take a picture of you all. Yeah, so I do that. I haven't, by the way, look, it's still turned up. So I take a picture of you all, and you then object to that. You say, I didn't like you, and I don't want you to take my picture. Really sorry, really sorry. I delete it. So I go into the phone, and I push the old trash can, and it's gone, yeah? It's not, is it? So that's what all your kids said. So I then go to the deleted files folder, and I delete it from there. It's gone, yes? Yeah? No. I then wipe my phone clean and set it back to factory settings. So it's like it's spanking new out of the box. It's completely been wiped. Has that picture gone? No. So I'm on the internet at the moment. My location service is on. Apple have got that picture. I can retrieve that picture whenever I wish. I put my password in and get it back off the cloud. That's the deleted picture. Your kids looked frightened. Some of them have obviously taken some inappropriate images and thought they'd gone by double deleting. No, they haven't. This is the problem here, is that could be used again by people to blackmail them, things like that kind of thing. So making sure. So some of the kids, as I was saying to you, they take a picture of themselves, send it to their boyfriend, girlfriend, and that relationship breaks up. It's so dangerous. And I've just kept on trying to say to your kids, the best way of getting out of trouble, don't get into it. Just don't get into it. I think that's probably me. I was asked to leave. The answer to that is no, isn't it? Yeah. And that's it, correct. Definitely that. The next thing I'm not going to show you, that was Katie's story. So I was going to show you that now, which is 4 minutes. But we can use it. We'll finish at 1:45, wasn't it? Yeah, so leave it now for any questions whatsoever about anything at all, whatsoever, talked about or not talked about, on keeping the children safe. You can ask me anything. If it's going to be personal, by the way, I'll tell you it's a personal. So, for example, when I talked about talking to my daughter and son about trusted adults and all that at that young age, that's personal. That's not. I'm not saying that that's what you should do, must do. That's what we did. That's all I'm telling you there. I'm not guiding you, advising you, or anything like that. I'm just telling you what I did to try and keep my children safe. But has anyone got a question that they'd like to ask? Yes. Yeah, so might have to start again. Sorry.
Some of us have older children, so we don't necessarily go and see them naked or shower them or so on. Are there any signs that we can pick up as parents if an older child is being abused or?
What a brilliant question. So, really asking there about any signs and symptoms you can see in a child about being abused. Well, number one, On most abuse, most are going to tell me that, quite private thing. So that's where we would try and keep our children, that dialogue going all through life, but you have to start early. If you start late, they think, oh, I don't believe how you're doing about you. But then, melding it in, just give them a talk, you know? That sort of doesn't answer your question, I'm sorry, because the biggest thing with most abuse is there's no signs other than behavioural, but we don't pick it up. We just think they're tired or going through teenage. Sorry. Give me an age. What age are you talking about? 8. So getting into the internet early. Yeah, you've got to talk to them about everything about online. First of all, logging down their systems that young. They shouldn't be on Instagram, WhatsApp, that kind of thing. Because there was quite a few kids that I did on this course, on this talk earlier on. You know they've lied. They've lied. They've lied to you, they've lied to everyone. There was one young girl on Twitter, well, you've got to be 16 to get on there. So she must have lied because she wasn't 16. If you're on Facebook, well, you've got to be 13. Is any of you 11, 10-year-olds on it? Well, they've lied then, haven't they? We're teaching children to lie already, aren't we? But the other side of it then would be, is be with them. So how many of you, when your kids go on Minecraft, how many of you parents can play Minecraft? Why not? You should be knowing that. I don't mean play with them for every single bleeding minute. I mean just getting to know what they're doing on the internet. Know what these programs. And my daughter, I always go in anything. She downloaded a program called Draw for Free. And I thought that's good because she's an artist, she's brilliant. Until I noticed that Draw for Free, this app, this iPad, whatever you call it, other people can get in and see your pictures and draw things. Well, what a dangerous tool for 5, 6-year-old girls to go on, where predatory males can go and start drawing sexual images and trapping them in. So that was blocked straight away. So I knew that, because the only reason I knew that is because I played it with her. I did drawings with her, and I thought, hang on a minute, I can see other people's. They can see ours.
I have a 14-year-old son, and I just wanted to know, what's the norm for weekdays and the weekend?
There are... Sorry, so what is the normal length of time a 14-year-old kid can go on the internet during a week?
I asked,
Yeah.
and he said, I worked with him today, and he says 4 hours.
4 hours a day?
Yeah.
I would think that's about right. Most kids in the school here would say 23 hours a day, but about 16 hours, yeah. My son, I found
4
out...
hours is
4 hours, I would say, is about right, yeah.
weekdays and weekends.
No, weekdays. Weekends, they can chill a little bit, unless it's exam year. So my eldest now, he is going through his GCSEs next year. So we're going to start after Christmas cutting his weekends down a bit, so he does more study at the weekends, because it is so important, obviously.
The weekends would be 6 hours.
Yeah, 6, 8 hours for the weekend, or 6 hours a day, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But still checking what they're doing on it. You know, is he looking at pornography, or is he playing the games that he's telling you, you know? So,
I don't know when he was 6.
right, but you should know.
Doesn't ask me.
Yeah, but you should know.
The vagina.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's 6. Kids as young as 8 are accessing pornography. But if my boy and my daughter ever delete their history on their internet, they are blocked off. I block them off.
I don't want to go and check his history, go up.
You should.
Huh?
You should.
How-
Or tell them that you're going to do it.
Until what?
Yeah, 19 you can't do it.
Yeah, he was not allowed to go on anything without a password.
Yeah, passwords.
Big access, everything had to go through me. And my daughter's is timed every time and it's targeted.
Yeah. See, that device I've got, I can time them. They can go on for a certain period of time, and the time just ticks down and turns them off, kind of thing. So there's a question of, yeah, I'm going to get me fit here, aren't you? I haven't done so much walking for years.
Be honest, I want to ask a question. There is the peer pressure, okay? So, for example, I try to say no WhatsApp, the inventor says 13 plus. You're 9.5. No Instagram, no Facebook. I have 2 questions. One, when she come and tell me all my friend has WhatsApp, you're an evil mom. One. Two, there is technology that beyond yani, from 1 month ago, I discovered that there's something new called TikTok, and she's been in it for 3 weeks. And then when I discovered TikTok, I found it's 13 plus. The only thing I did is trying to make it private for her and friend only, because I couldn't remove it. Because if I remove it, then I'm not even, she will hate me. Yani everything is, do you understand? What do we do and what do we tell our children and how can we do it?
Good luck. Kids love them. But you're right, and I've had these same arguments with my daughter as well. I have to say to my daughter, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Just because your friends on it, probably they haven't got parents that care for them. You know? Probably they haven't got parents that love them that much. You know, I was just in Abu Dhabi. I don't know if anybody's from there, I've got you, anybody's from there or anything like that, but you see kids with heads out sunroofs doing 140k down the motorways. They don't love their kids. They go in the back of the lorry, that child will be decapitated. They hate it when I tell them that. Kids with no seatbelts on, things like that. Just because they do it doesn't mean we can do it, you know? So, it is difficult, you're absolutely right. Did I bend the rules with my kids? A little. You know, I'm not going to say I'm holding them now, and the minute you become 13, you can go on it. She said when she was 13 in September this year. In August, she was on it. You know, I know it's only a month, but my daughter is so protected, so responsible. I'm not that worried, to be honest. But she also shows me. And she'll say to me, Dad, it's boring. And I said, I know it's boring, sweetheart, but just have a quick look. But just make your daddy happy and you can get rid of him, can't you? And so she'll just go through a few messages with me about what she said to him. And it is pretty damn rubbish, you know, things like that. But some of us feel like it's looking in a personal diary. Well, I don't know, you know. I can't tell. There's a lady down the back and I'll come back. Yeah, that's such a good question as well, isn't it? So how do you identify a perpetrator? Have we got 2 minutes? Literally. I nearly told an inappropriate joke then. It was, the inappropriate joke was around 2 minutes, but it was about the last time my wife and I sort of got a little bit intimate with each other. I said, that was brilliant, that was 1 hour and 2 minutes. She said, don't be silly, the clock's went forward. Oh, it's gone so slow. Sorry about that, you can see this one. Sorry, what I'll have to do is send the link and perhaps you can send them the link as well. What it was what I was trying to show you there, was a video of a man who has been convicted of grooming children, sexually abusive children, and he tells you how he does it. So I'll send the link on YouTube on how to do that. It's very good to look at. Then think of me, about how I treated my daughter, my son as well, about the bubble. You will see how he's probing the bubble. So he's talking about parents that are not engaged in children's life on the internet and things like that. Parents who are split up, no strong fathers, no nothing like that. He's looking for all the you lot first to make you think that they're the best things in sliced bread. So an abuser breaks down 3 inhibitors to abuse a child. They're only internal, because everyone knows it's wrong to abuse a child, but they break that down to make it right. Then the next big one you've got to be worried about is external inhibitors they break down, which is all of you, is the staff at the school. External inhibitors, all the people that they would protect the child from, they make them think they're the last person. The last person they break down is the child, having broken down their own internal inhibitors and external inhibitors like their carers. So we can catch them at that time, before they go on to the final inhibitor, the child, but you've got to look for it. You've got to look for that person in your life trying to break you down before they break your child down. Try to catch them a step early if you can. Links for child appropriate links. Yeah, we could certainly, again, I can try and do that for you as well, because my wife does a lot of that in her school. So from next year in the UK, by law, you have to teach children how to keep themselves safe on the PSHE programme. Well, internationally, they don't have to do that. In fact, some of you parents will pull your children out because you think it's taking innocence away. Sorry, but that happens. So it has to be determined by the senior leadership of your board whether they do that. Because some of your parents will be upset. So if you teach them things that now. I think, well, I'm getting nagged a little bit, so last one.
My question is about, you were talking, okay, the gentleman there was talking about a limit of time. That, I think, is the parents who choose if your child has to be on a screen for 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. It doesn't affect if it's internet or not. But until what age can you just go and check on your phone? You were talking about the history. Until what age can you go and tell to your children, I'm allowed, I'm your mom, or I'm your dad, I can go on your phone and check what you're doing.
The honest answer is until they are 18 years of age. You have parental responsibility for all your children until they attain the age of 18. Then they become an adult. You no longer have responsibility for them. They have responsibility for themselves. So technically up to them. But if you've done it right initially, you won't need that. Because they'll be safe. They'll be safe.
I'd like to thank Robin for his time this afternoon. It was planned really at the last minute. As I said at the start of this session, he's coming tomorrow and the weekend to train our staff. But I'm really glad that he took the time. We were able to drag him from his hotel after only a few hours of sleep to talk to our year 10s, 13s, to talk to you, because I really do think. As Robin kept saying about probing that bubble and making that bubble strong, and I do think that bubble is getting stronger. We've got the parents, the students themselves, and of course the staff all working in unison and together to ensure that our children are safe. I will certainly be putting something in the newsletter about the presentation and maybe put some links in if we've got time to do that for this week, if not the following week. Hopefully the newsletter ratings will go up a little bit now. But thank you very much, Robin, for your time. I know it's as a tradition, sometimes parents like to come up and try to talk to the speaker about personal and other issues going on. If I could ask you to do that, if you are going to do that outside, he actually has a car or a bus that's going to take him back to the hotel in 15 minutes, but we need to vacate this area because we have the senior school show about to start their practice. Thank you very much.